Good afternoon, Cross Timbers. Today is Thursday, October 22nd, 2015. This is Texan TV News from Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas. I'm Phillip Mullen. On today's headlines, Texas author E.R. Bills spoke out about his book, Black Holocaust, as part of Free Speech Week. A Mansfield woman charged with assault, the Syrian president visits Moscow, and an update to the 2016 presidential race, and the Lady Rangers set a new record in campus. In campus news, writers, journalists, and professors have been speaking out on different aspects of free speech this week. Texan TV News reporter Ashley Ford interviewed Bills about his new book, Black Holocaust.
We have Mr. E.R. Bills with us, who has recently published his latest book, Black Holocaust. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks
Awesome.
for asking.
So you want to start off by telling us a little bit about Black Holocaust and what it's about?
Yes, ma'am. It's called The Black Holocaust, the Paris Horror, and a Legacy of Texas Terror. It's about a period in Texas where Texans burned an average of one African American at the stake a year for about 30 years. Actually, all told, there were dozens, but the chief period I discuss is that 30-year period, starting in 1891, 1892, and lasting till 1922. There were several African Americans burned before that period, and several African Americans burned after that period. Actually, persons of color. There was one Mexican American burned in that period as well. You don't hear about those kind of things, I guess, especially as a Caucasian Texan. You don't hear about that kind of history, and you just you grow up and you don't realize those kind of things have gone on, and so I wrote the book trying to shed light on sort of that dark chapter in our history.
Right. So would you say that was what was your biggest motivation, is just spreading the word out and getting people to understand and know what happened?
Yeah, I think in light of some of the stuff that's going on in the country and in Texas today, it has a context, and it didn't just appear. The context was created, decades ago, up to a century ago. There was a way African Americans were treated under Jim Crow. And there were things they suffered after the Civil War that inform, how we look at them today and how they're treated today.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure having you in the studio.
Thank you, ma'am.
In regional news from the Fort Worth Star-Telegram, a woman in Mansfield has been charged for beating an 89-year-old man who later died in the hospital. Henry Sawyer from the Star-Telegram reported that the woman was delivering food to his apartment. She forced herself into his apartment and stole cash and groceries. 32-year-old Kristen Miner was arrested on Wednesday for the crime. The real delivery driver found the elderly man in his apartment around 2 a.m. Miner's bond has been set at $75,000. And now for Texas news from the Associated Press. State Attorney Ken Paxton has removed himself from some of his official duties, due to accusations from criminal charges that he had defrauded investors. This comes from his office yesterday. These recusals of duties indicate that his duties are coming into conflict with the previous 3-count indictment. So far, it is unclear which duties he has specifically been removed from. So far, Paxton has pleaded not guilty to the felony charges and said he wouldn't be distracted from his official duties. Cynthia Meyer, a spokeswoman, said that her office has been avoiding potential conflicts by removing him. Among these are his involvement in the Texas State Securities Board, which last year fined Paxton $1,000 for not disclosing commissions for referring clients to a financial advisor. The accusations Paxton faces could land him in prison for 5 to as much as 99 years if convicted. The accusation is that in 2011, he defrauded wealthy investors by urging them to invest in a tech company without revealing that this company was paying him. There have been minimal changes in Paxton's case, which is being overseen by a Fort Worth judge, since he turned himself in for booking in August. In national news, the AP reports that Senator Bernie Sanders responds to Vice President Joe Biden's decision not to run in the presidential race.
Joe Biden is a man who has devoted his entire life to public service and to the well-being of working families and the middle class. He made a difficult decision based on the needs of his family and his view of his future, and I respect the decision that he made. I want to thank Joe Biden and President Obama for the work that they have done over the last 7 years in making very significant improvements to our economy. Obviously, we have a long way to go. Well, as the most progressive member of the United States Senate, I obviously have strong disagreements with the Republicans on every issue. There is no issue that we don't have fundamental disagreements, but I would not use the word quote-unquote enemies to describe fellow Americans. Strong differences of opinion, opponents, I wouldn't use the word enemies. It's hard to say, you know. Our campaign is generating enormous enthusiasm because we're talking about the real issues facing this country. We're going to continue running a positive, issue-oriented campaign. We don't do negative ads. We don't make personal attacks. So we'll just continue doing what we're doing, and we look forward to good success. All right, thank you all very much.
In international news, according to the AP, Syrian President Assad traveled to Moscow in his first known trip abroad since war broke out in Syria in 2011. He met his strongest ally, Russian leader Vladimir Putin. The two leaders stressed that military operations in Syria, in which Moscow is the latest and most powerful addition, must lead to a political process. The surprise visit Tuesday reflects renewed confidence from Assad after Russia and Iran, another ally, dramatically escalated their support. Moscow began carrying out airstrikes on Syria insurgents, and Tehran sent hundreds of ground forces. Syria's conflict began in March 2011 after the government cracked down violently on large and peaceful protests against Assad's rule. The protests gradually became an armed insurgency and a civil war that has killed 250,000 people in the past 5 years. Russia says it's targeting militants, but critics, including the U.S., say the Moscow military intervention helps prop up Assad and is likely to fan the violence. And now some sports news from the Empire-Tribune. The Lady Rangers of Ranger College made a historic accomplishment. Their 2015 season came to a close yesterday, and soccer player Emily Linares knew they were making history. Playing well and working hard paid off, and they became the winningest soccer team in Ranger College history. With the victory, the Lady Rangers improved to a season of 9-5-2 and dominated the program's previous best for wins in a single season back in 2011. The team also made sure for a better winning percentage than the 2011 squad, who finished at 8-7 that fall, which followed a first-round loss in the Region 5 tournament. The record-setting win didn't come easy, but working hard and striving to be better worked out in their favor. The victory also secured Ranger College a berth in the upcoming Region 5 tournament, which will be held next week in Cisco. The Lady Rangers will enter the event as the number 2 or number 3 team, depending on the result of games by Hill College and Cisco later this week. Great job, Lady Rangers. According to weather.com, the weather this weekend calls for plenty of rain, so don't forget your umbrellas. The highs will be around 70 degrees and lows will be around 55. Today's broadcast was produced by Rachel Tuggle and Christine Humphreys. Don't forget to tell your friends about us and become a fan of Texan TV News on Facebook. I'm Phillip Mullen. Tune in daily for the latest news from Tarleton State University campus in Stephenville, Texas.